Free. Hello, all you hardcores out there. How you doing? We're joined today by Julian. How are you doing, Julian?
All good, Russell. Looking forward to the weekend, mate.
I am, mate. Eubank got beat. What went wrong for him?
Well, I was away last weekend, so I didn't get a chance to see the fight as it happened. I heard a few bits and bobs, and I try not to listen to the narratives that I hear. I heard bits about the elbow and various things, and I just watched the fight last night, actually, so almost a week late. Now, I thought Eubank might edge that fight. I think most people thought either way it was a 51-49 fight, and you couldn't make too much of a case for a dominant win from one or the other. Now, what I'm going to do is, without taking anything away from Liam Smith's been a fantastic ambassador for boxing. He's having a real Indian summer in his career. I think he's the fighter most people wanted emotionally to win at the weekend. But when I saw the fight last night, I'm just staggered by the almost skeletal condition of Eubank Jr. And it's not excuses, but you have to ask questions when, I mean, first of all, we know he's not elite. I never thought it was elite. I always thought it was fringe world class, and I've stood by that. I think to some extent I thought that about Smith, but Eubank was absolutely, he looked so thin in that fight. When you've got a fighter, Russell, and you get weighed in on the scales, even your fighter, the guys fighting, when you see them in the ring, physically they look so different. I remember Carl Johansson against Sykes. It looked almost skeletal on the scales. His skin was kind of ashen. And then when he got in the ring, he must have been 10, 11, 12 pound heavier. He looked so healthy and so good.
That big right hands up.
Oh, honestly, he just looks so good and so strong. Now, when Chris Eubank, when I saw him in the ring last night, I'm thinking, you look like you've put about 2 or 3 pounds on. And you know what can happen to your body? And I think there might be an element of vanity with Eubank. There could be partly what happened to the Conor Ben making 157. But quickly, before anybody says it's sour grapes, seriously, yeah, making the weight is such a difficult thing. But one of the more dangerous things than making the weight is maintaining a low weight for such a long time. Now, we've heard Eubank say so many times now, Russell, I'm already on the weight, I'm really close to the weight, and I don't walk around much above middleweight. That's a really dangerous thing to do, to keep your body fat so low and to keep down to that close to the limit before big fights is such a wrong thing to do. Liam Smith, we saw, was a little bit podgy, had a little bit of weight on him. That's how you do it. Smith knew how to make the weight. And I just thought Eubank in the ring looks so frail, so fragile. Style-wise, I don't think he knows what he wants to be when he grows up. He's never going to be Roy Jones, so he needs to stop doing that right now. But I just thought, I watched the fight, and then I watched the fighters. That's a slightly different thing. And as I was watching Smith, he was doing exactly what we thought he was going to do. But as I watched Eubank, there was a moment, I think, in the third round where Smith caught Eubank with like a solid jab. And it sounds patronising to say it sometimes takes a trained eye, but it can. Ever so slightly, there was a little freeze from Eubank. Just this jab just shook him a little bit more than it should have done. And obviously I knew the result when I was watching it, so hindsight's a wonderful thing. And as I saw him land this solid jab on Eubank, and Eubank just shudder, ever so slightly shudder, I thought, that's not right. That's really not right. And then I thought the way he got stopped was he just fell to pieces. There was no recovery. There was no nothing. Do I think Chris Eubank Jr. is a better fighter overall than Liam Smith throughout the careers? Probably not. Thought timing-wise, he might be the fresher of the two. But anyone, and Paul Smith said the same thing, you can have a great chin and get caught. It does happen, you know, no excuses there. But I thought Eubank looked fragile. Now, remember me talking to you before, Russell, about the dangers of Eubank making 157 against Ben.
Yeah.
And I said, forget all this nonsense with a clomiphene. That is a real dangerous
Could have
thing.
been brown bread, couldn't he?
Honestly, and
£3.
I can't remember, but I'm sure I said when I was on when we talked about this.
Rehydration, weather as well, like the one on this one. He could have been in a rape match,
So, so dangerous, and we will never know what that has done to him. You made a guy boil down to a weight he's never been until since he was 16, 17 years old. And I remember saying to you, Russell, it was either on your show or offline. I said, Eubank's going to pay a price for that somewhere down the line.
You said it on here. You said it on here, Julian.
I said it on here, and I said he will pay a price for being 157. You can't mess about with weights. You can't stay down at that limit and boil down. And if you remember, listen, Roy Jones Jr. was slightly different, but when he dropped down from heavyweight to Tarver, obviously he lost the first fight. He won the first fight on points, but he never beat Tarver. Jones's punch resistance went overnight. We didn't know if he had an iron chin because Jones's reflexes were so amazing, but we knew that Chris Eubank had such a great chin. George Groves can crack, and George Groves was a big super middleweight who rattled him and cracked him, and he just took it. And I thought it was absolutely staggering to see Eubank get dropped. Liam Smith is not this massive puncher. And what I will quickly say is, I'm not buying the conspiracy theory with the elbow. I saw that the first right hand that Smith landed before he threw those left uppercuts and left hooks sagged Eubank. It was the right hand that started that sequence.
Yeah,
he cracked him with the right, he dipped and he sagged, he came back up, landed a couple more shots. The forearm hit, that wasn't the damaging shot. And then it was obviously, there was a beautiful left uppercut and a beautiful left hook. I love the Mexican style left uppercut, left hook, and almost Oscar De La Hoya style, what Smith did. That was brilliant. But honestly, I'll debate it with anybody. That was a guy who was absolutely, his punch resistance has gone. And you watch Eubank now. If he carries on with his career, he's going to get knocked out again. I don't think he's going to get that resistance back that he had. I think he's played around with too many different types of trainers, trained himself.
Different
crazy.
ways.
Yeah, you just can't do it. You move up in weight throughout your career. You don't move down, which is effectively what he was going to do with Conor Benn. And he looked a shell of a man to me. And I'm not suggesting he's a better fighter than Smith. I'm not suggesting that at all. But what I am saying is that was shocking. And I think there's a massive contributor there was dropping that weight for the Conor Benn fight and then maintaining 162, 163 for 4 or 5 weeks. It's nuts. And that's what I said, before. Fighters get in the ring 30 hours after weighing and you see them across the ring. And I did this with Carl Johansson against Sykes. I didn't recognise Carl from being on the scales, from being in the ring. He looked fully hydrated. He had that sweat. He looked great. His skin colour had gone from ashen to a shine. Johansson looked so strong in that ring. Whereas Chris Eubank, when I saw him get into the ring, because I watched it late last night, I was shocked by Chris Eubank's physical appearance. He looked like he'd put no weight on since he'd been on the scales. Yeah. And if I would have been Liam Smith's coach and I'd have seen him, because this is what coaches do. You look at the fighter in the ring centre and judging by what you see, you'll say, he's dry, he's not warmed up, jump on him, he's strong, take your time. And if I'd have been Liam Smith's corner and seen Chris Eubank in the middle of the ring, I'd have said, jump all over him. He's empty. He was absolutely empty. Anybody who says it's sour grapes, I hoped Smith would win. I thought Eubank might edge it, but I'm not a big Eubank fan, Russell. I've never particularly cared for him that much. He's warm. I've warmed to him a little bit since the Conor Benn thing because of the way he's spoken. But he's had empty pieces of the jigsaw, hasn't he? And he's been beaten 3 times now by domestic fighters. So he's not the fighter he thinks he is. He's not a fighter who should have been calling out Canelo like he was in the day and Triple G. But I'll tell you something. Chris Eubank Jr. is not as bad as he looked on Saturday night.
Yeah. All right. Usyk Fury, does it happen? If you were to put Usyk in a room with Fury and we're to ask him the questions we wanted to ask them, what each in a different room, who would you believe out of the two of them?
I'd believe Usyk 10 times out of 10 because Fury says, and I like Tyson. I think he's great to watch, great to listen to. but I take everything he says with a pinch of salt. And there's been delays right now, and it might be over the site fee. Is it Saudi? Is it Wembley? This side of Ramadan, that side of Ramadan? Who knows? But what I would say is I think Usyk's got more authenticity about him. And I think Fury, for someone who's initially, it's not about the money. You know, I'll fight Anthony Joshua for free. And then 3 weeks later, he says, I'll fight Usyk and come out of retirement, but I want 500 million. And the rumours doing the mill now, the reason the fight is stalled is not because of you can't agree on the site and location, but because Fury wants a bigger piece of the pie. And you only have to look at what's happening with Tommy Fury now fighting YouTubers for a lot of money to know what the Furies are about. And the Furies are about the money. And do you know what? I've got no issue with that, Russell. If it's about the money, no issue with that whatsoever. But just say it. Say it's about the money. It's not about the British fans. It's not about the legacy. It's not about unification. It's about the money. If Tyson thinks he's entitled to more than Usyk, I could understand that point of view. But ultimately, will it happen? I think it will happen. I think it will get over the line. But we've been waiting 20 years for Undisputed, so you can't count,
innit?
Yeah, so don't count your chickens. I'd be equally surprised if it didn't.
Yeah.
Unsurprised. Yeah.
What about Big Meech against Franklin?
Well, I never saw the Dillian Whyte-Franklin fight. I unsubscribed to DAZN and I thought, life's too short to watch the highlights of that. I've heard bits and bobs about Franklin, but look, he needs a comfortable fight. We thought it was going to be the other guy, didn't we? The Aussie. He needs a comfortable fight that's going to bring him back. But do you know what I would say? Even though you'd think he'd get rid of Franklin, I don't think any fight's a formality now with AJ just because of his mindset, his mentality, and he's just inactive all the time.
Yeah. Anthony Yard, Beta Beef. Why is Beta Beef so strong? People like him, Usyk, Kovalev, Golovkin, where are they getting this power from? You should know. You're a trainer. You're a teacher of teachers. So come on.
You always wonder. You always want certain questions that you feel you should ask about what are people taking to get that almost like not just that inhuman strength, but you get fighters like Usyk, for example. They've also got that late round stamina and late round power. And I'm not suggesting, by the way, that those are cheating or taking something they shouldn't. I'm just asking open questions, or I'm thinking outside the box. But they've always seemed to have a different level of spirit than a lot of our fighters have, a different level of strength. Maybe it's cultural, maybe it's because they're dragged up and they're brought up in really tough countries and they're a lot hungrier. But when I look at a fighter like Beterbiev, and he's a tremendous fighter, he's a tremendous amateur, and I always look at, and Anthony Yard's certainly a physical specimen as well. I always look at these guys invest when they're amateurs, and I look at the deltoids and the traps and the necks and things like that. And I'm thinking, are they just training so much harder than we are? Have they got other methods that we don't know about? And I think I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I've never done that, and I've never named anybody. I've always been one to say we shouldn't accuse people without knowing anything. But I'm just asking the questions. You only have to look at some of the Eastern Bloc countries in the late 70s and 80s and the steroid scandals that we had then, and some of the records they were setting, and some of those the track and field athletes. And those countries have always been ahead of us in doping, haven't they? Which is a kind of an awkward thing to say, isn't it? They've been ahead of us, they're better than us at that. Am I saying there's foul play tomorrow night? I'm not saying that for 1 minute, but what I am saying is it's well known there are a lot of fighters out there, Russell, using methods that are not strictly by the book. And if you speak to trainers, if you speak to people in the industry, it's almost like becoming a known thing now. I mean, we talked about this before. Look how many heavyweights over the past few years, and these are not just this includes British fighters. Look how many heavyweights have failed tests for performance enhancing drugs. or banned substances in the last 6, 7, 8 years. I mean, what was it? Big Baby Miller. I mean, that was disgraceful, wasn't it? He was on everything going, everything humanly possibly could take. I think there's a lot of dirty athletes out there. Maybe they've got better coaches as well, Russell. Maybe they're better coaches out there, better scientists. I don't know. I just know that with boxing 2023, everything that you see is not really to be believed. And I question fighters. Skill level is one thing, skill sets is one thing. But when I see fighters just walking through with their hands up, massive power, and just beating opponents down to the ground, I ask questions in my mind.
Yeah. Robert Smith's not retiring. He was supposed to be retiring in November. Apparently he isn't now.
Okay, you keep hearing things about the board, don't you, that they're in trouble. There's this person suing them, that person suing them. Financially, they're not in a good situation. I guess the thing with Robert Smith is he maybe thinks he can, do some cleanup and make some improvements under his watch. Who else is coming through? Who could do that job? Maybe he loves boxing so much he doesn't want to give up that position. I don't know. I've spoken to Robert Smith several times. It's not always been favourable in terms of what I want, but it's a little bit like with the government we've got right now. We've had 3 prime ministers in the last 6 months, and are any of them better than the one before them? And if not Robert Smith, who's better than Robert Smith?
Yeah, will Robert Smith ever answer this question? Robert, I know you're watching. What would you give yourself a mark out of 10 for your 20-year or whatever it is, 15 years, so for your 15-year at the helm of the ship, what would you give yourself out of 10? Never answers that question when people ask him at shows.
I'd give him 4 out of 10.
4 out of 10. Well, why is he still here if he's only a 4? So if he says he's a 10, I'll say, well, show me how you're a 10. How is he a 10? And is he even a 4? I mean, so why is he in power? Because nobody can budge him, can they?
No one can shift them. Self-appointed, self-regulated. They can do what the hell they want.
Unbelievable. Dylan White, what next for him now? Has he had a divorce with Eddie? Bit of backbiting in interviews. I've seen off it, Dylan, a couple of interviews.
Yeah, I saw Dean White doing something similar about 6 months ago, just these little jabs at Matchroom. So, look, I'm not going to blame...
They've done well for Dylan at the Matchroom.
Matchroom have made him a millionaire, mate, and he's been on paper. I'm just going to say, I'm not going to blame Eddie. That's what I was going to say. Right? It's sometimes a seasonal thing to just rip into Eddie Hearn. It's like a sport, isn't it? Let's rip Eddie Hearn because he's so damn successful. But Eddie Hearn has made fighters very, very rich who I don't think are that good. And Dillian White's one of them. I think in old money, he'd be domestic level. Anybody who thinks, he was a rightful mandatory challenger and the official #1 contender, have a word with yourself. He was never that good. Is being ironed out several times, twice in his last 4 fights, albeit by Fury. Povetkin destroyed him. Joshua. So he's not that good. He's made absolute millions. He's made him a pay-per-view star. He's made him a big name, effectively. So I'm not going to rinse Eddie on that one. I'm not going to rinse Dillian. Good luck to you, but I think he'll probably move on to Sky and he'll have maybe his last couple of fights he'll do on a bigger platform. Who knows, maybe Parker or something like that. It all depends what's in the contract. They'll match him, won't they? Because Sky don't have much in the way of heavyweights, really, do they? So they might throw a little bit of money at what did Adam Smith call it, the blue ribbon division. Throw a bit of brass at it and see if Dillian White can be in the picture. So whilst I've said Eddie's done a great job for Dillian White, and he has, there's no loyalty in boxing, and Dillian White, he only owes himself, doesn't he? So he's going to go to the highest bidder, and just like Chisora does, he'll go to the highest bidder every single time. And I think that's what fighters should do, to be fair.
Yeah. Conor Benn delaying tactics with a 270-page dossier. It's all up in air, but yet he's doing videos having a dig at Chris Eubank when he got knocked out.
First of all, if Conor Benn thinks he can do a job a hell of a lot better than Liam Smith, even though I said Chris Eubank earlier was weight drained and a shell of the man who I've seen, Liam Smith is 5 times the fighter Conor Benn. So not only are you disrespecting Chris Eubank Jr., you're also disrespecting Liam Smith by saying what you took 4 rounds to do, I can do in 2. Well, I don't think so, Conor, because ultimately the only way you can do it is to drag him down even further in weight and to not let him put that weight back on and allegedly take performance-enhancing drugs. So I completely dismiss anything Conor Benn says whatsoever. What I'll also say is that there's him and Conor Benn and Nigel Benn laughing at Chris Eubank Jr. getting knocked out. Well, all we got was Chris Eubank Sr. being really supportive of Conor Benn throughout this PED scandal. And I think Nigel Benn should have extended the same courtesy to Chris Eubank Sr.'s son, what he extended to his own son. So it just shows the Benns and both of them, and it's disappointing because I always like Nigel Benn. They're quite classless individuals, in my opinion. And the fact that he's got this 270-page document, but yet he hasn't given this to the British Boxing Board of Control, he hasn't given this to the UK Anti-Doping Agency. Why not? Why just give this to WBC? You keep saying, I want to clear my name. If you're innocent and you've got evidence, never mind an NDA, I've signed a non-disclosure agreement. If you've paid for scientists, which is what Eddie Hearn said, he spent a massive amount of money on scientists proving his innocence, then you own those reports. Whatever reports have been done on you by scientists or by lawyers, they're yours. You've paid for them. You can publish them to anybody you want. So get them out there, put them in the public domain, send them to the Board of Control, send them to UCAD, send them to VADA. Why are you just sending them to the WBC? The WBC is the less, well, it's not a on the level, really authentic set of guys who run the WBC, are there? And just one final thing, Russ, I know I could talk forever on Conor Benn. Conor Benn's putting idiotic, ridiculous tweets out saying, how come the WBC haven't banned me then? If I was guilty, why haven't they banned me? The WBC, Conor, can't ban you because they're not regulators. They don't hand licenses out to boxers. What the WBC have done, they've dropped you from the rankings. So they've effectively banned you from fighting for titles. It's as simple as that. So the WBC can't ban you because they're not a licensing commission or authority. And all they're doing, Russell, is it's just semantics, it's smoke and mirrors, and they're just trying to fool people by saying all this nonsense. If you're clean, you've got a report that you own, you've paid for it, you've commissioned it, send that report to Porky's Corner. Let's get some legal people having a look at this. Let's get some scientists having a look at this. And let the public the court of public opinion make their mind up. But he's been very, very selective with who he's giving this information to.
Let's let Terry have a look at it. He'd like to dissect it. And Rico
and Terry, two seriously smart guys. Let them have a look at it.
Kent.
Yeah, let my daughter have a look at it. She's just got a first-class degree in law. Let her have a look at the legal side of things as well. Because all this, Russell, I've signed an NDA. You've signed an NDA for reports that you commissioned. You've paid for it. The lawyers, the scientists, who would no doubt have been independent scientists, they're working for you, Conor. You can do whatever you want with documentation you've commissioned and paid for. Get it out there. But we know what they're doing, don't we? We all know what they're doing. Everybody knows what they're doing. 4 months. Or is it 5 months since the first one?
It's 6 months. 6 months since the first one, wasn't it? 25th of July.
Yeah. So
we're by that now by 2 days.
Eddie Hearn keeps saying, doesn't he? He keeps saying, Conor Benn can fight tomorrow. Well, fight then. Fight. Where are you going to fight? Fight tomorrow, because ultimately that's what you're going to do. The WBC will release something at some point and say, there's grey areas, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt. And then he'll go fight for some title abroad. We all know what you're doing. There's only one true path, and that's to get your board license back. Fight in Britain, you're a British fighter, go through the British Boxing Board of Control, let their team of legals and scientists and whoever they commission, let them be satisfied with the findings of this report, and then we can all give you the benefit of the doubt and we can start again. But it's just a nonsense, isn't it? It's all a nonsense. And they're looking at contamination, aren't they? Contamination of eggs.
All these eggs he's been eating.
So just a quick one on that, Russell. So I've clearly got too much time on my hands. 89% of eggs in the UK are farmed in the UK. 11% of eggs in the UK are imported. Now, the biggest percentage of eggs that could be contaminated with clomiphene is 11%. That's assuming all imported eggs. Those farms use effectively, fertility treatment for their hens. It's a shot in the dark. There's a one in a thousand.
They might not have been just normal eggs. They might have been super eggs.
Well, there were super eggs, and he's eaten. Was it like Canelo Alvarez? He had to have eaten something like about 50 wild boars or 50 stallions or something. It's just rubbish, isn't it? And Conor Benn will come back. He'll make a lot of money.
He'll have to play pantomime villain, won't he?
Yeah, he'll have to play pantomime villain. There's always been an element of people who are prepared to watch him. And I always wrestle with this, Russell, because I'll never ever watch a sport that allows cheats to prosper. But I'm hearing more and more now people saying, look, to get a level playing field, let people take what they want. And obviously I'll have no part in a sport that allows people to take whatever they want. But there's also a part of that argument what I understand when people say that. Say, let everybody take what they want.
Well, I heard a whisper over there, and I think I told you that it's a slam dunk that he's coming back. So,
well, it wouldn't surprise you, would it? I think someone said there's some training videos of him out there right now. I've not seen them, and he's looking quite slender.
Yeah,
quite slimline. Maybe he'll move back down to light welterweight. Who knows? But listen. You know what? The one thing I keep hearing, and people have said to me before, Russell, says, you really don't like Conor Benn, do you? And what I say to this is, I don't like what he stands for. I don't like his attitude. I think it's the way he was laughing at Robin Deacon and holding photographs of disabled babies up with club feet. And you can't ever get rid of this stuff once it goes. You and your mates, you can't ever get rid of this stuff once it goes online. We've all seen those videos of him laughing at Robin Deacon. Just the kind of person to laugh at someone's disabilities. I can't ever warm to you, Conor, if I'm being completely honest. And just the lack of class that you're showing throughout this. You've had no humility. There's been no apology. You accept no responsibility whatsoever for what you've done. You're a victim. You've been badly treated. The WBC are stopping you from earning a living. Everybody's stopping you from earning a living. And you're just a victim. And that is a sign of a privileged, spoiled person who's had a very fortunate upbringing. Thank God you're able-bodied, and you don't have a disability, laughing at people with disabilities. And all I hear is the Gareth A. Davies saying, I hope it's not true because I really like Conor Benn. Spencer Oliver, he's a lovely guy. He's Conor Benn. He's such a nice young man. He's a fine young man, and I hope this isn't true. Well, I actually don't think he is a fine young man, Russell. Maybe he's immature. We all make mistakes, but there are things in his character that'll never be a set of principles that I've got. The best for the best. When he gets his fast cars, the best for the best. I'm the best. I deserve the best. Laughing at guys with disabilities, no remorse for his actions, never once publicly apologised for all those people who paid thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds to come out and support him. Never once apologised to all those people on the undercard, all the opponents who had fights scrapped, who will have taken time off work. paid for expenses out of their own pocket. There's been nothing from him, has there? No remorse. And all that tells me really what kind of person is. So I don't care for him in particular, if I'm being honest. And that's just my view, mate. He's not my cup of tea. He never will be, and I'll guarantee I'll never watch Conor Benn fight ever again, mate. And even that is even if somehow there's a report that says he's a clean athlete.
Julian going in heavy on Conor Benn.
Not my cup of tea whatsoever.
Old crusher.
One of my daughters brought him home, mate. He won't get through the door, trust me. I'd have some of your pals come round. I won't be able to do anything myself.
Right. Billy Joe's had a beef with Ben Shalom.
He's funny as Billy Joe, isn't he? He likes to now and again put a little controversial video out, tweet out. And I don't think he does it because he's starved of attention. I just think it's Billy Joe just being a bit cheeky and a bit naughty. And he's always having a jab at someone. But you know, I'm not sure what he said about Ben Shalom, to be honest. What's he said, Russell?
No, it sounded to me like Ben would owed him $100,000 or something. And I don't know. You're never going to get to the bottom of it, and it's probably a signing on fee that he ain't got or something, or he said you can't sign him, and he's gone to Sky. They probably said we don't want him, and that's the gist of it, I think. But till somebody comes out and says something, we don't know, do we? But
you don't know, do you? We just know boxing's a dirty sport, and whenever you get, and I kind of like Ben Shalom, what I've seen, but there's no such thing as a fresh-faced, naive youngster in such a powerful position in boxing, such as Ben Shalom. They're all the same, aren't they? They're all, well, Dennis will tell you that, won't he?
Oh God,
they're not people with scruples, and they're not people who we'd really trust.
Close up, it's a nightmare.
It's horrendous, mate. I never got close. You saw that side of it more than I did. I saw bits of it, but I tried to keep with the coaching side of things and not get involved in the politics, and that kept my sanity. But I heard certain things, but you being involved in the matchmaking and
there's 20 problems with every fighter, and if you've got 50 fighters, you've got 1,000 problems. 1,000 problems, and Dennis can't sort all them problems out when he's out at country 10 months a year, can he?
I only had three or four fighters I worked with, and they all had problems. Out of the ring problems, gym problems. They all had that. None of them told the truth. Boxers are actually liars. People in boxing are liars. And when I say they're liars, I don't mean that in a nasty way. So Sykes never told the truth, but Sykes didn't tell the truth because he wasn't dishonest. Sykes was a lovely kid, but he never told the truth because he didn't want to disappoint me, because he knew the truth would disappoint me. So he used to tell little white lies. I'm being diplomatic now, but boxing people.
Well, like he stayed in and that.
Yeah, they didn't go out last night, Jules, and Gary, you've put £4 on in 2 days. I don't know how I've just been eating those meals that you've done for me. I don't know how I've done it. So it wasn't you last night in the Black Bull, Gary. No, well, I called in to get some money off someone. You know, just that was Sykes' blessing. We were chatting the other day. He's what he is, but they're all the same. Boxers lie, but boxing managers, boxing promoters, boxing agents, these agents that come in boxing, God, they're despicable, really, aren't they? There aren't that many who are pretty straight up. I always call people out, and I always said to that Steve Wood, he was probably one of the most honest people that I ever came across in boxing. He was one of the few decent blokes in boxing, and a bit like Dennis, I think he's been shit on a few times.
Yeah, it's the Liam Cameron story is good. When Clinton trained him, and Clinton says, "Where are you?" He says, "I can't train today." And he goes, "Why?" He goes, "I've dropped a tin of beans on my foot." Clinton goes, "All right." Clinton jumped in his beamer, shot straight up to Liam's.
I've done that before.
Walked straight in. He says, "Show me that tin of beans." He didn't even have a tin of beans covered. I think he changed story then or something. But Liam's a good lad.
And Liam will be the same as what I just said with Sykes. He just wanted to tell the truth to Clinton and disappoint him. It's not lying as such, is it?
I think that's why Clinton won't train a pro, you know, because he he thinks that fighters have it too easy now, and they don't want to put that extra yard in, like that he put in.
I've seen it firsthand over the last few years, from the amateurs to the pros. I was staggered how the amateur. I was in an amateur gym for a couple of years, about 4 or 5 years ago. I was staggered culturally the difference between when I was an amateur boxer and these amateurs now, with all the winning gloves and the winning headgear and sparring when they want to spar, and only doing this and only sparring once a week and needing 6 to 8 weeks training camp for a 3-2s. And culturally, it's just crackers, and pros are just the same. And when you got young pros who have had 2 or 3 fights driving around in brand new fleet cars and sponsored cars, and they're at home all day playing on the phones and playing on the PlayStations, it's a different world. Clinton Woods probably grafted all day, mate, and then went to the gym on a night, and
well, he did his run, didn't he, Clinton, in the morning, then went plastering, I think, and then he went gym at night.
That's what Mally McIver were the first pro I trained, and Mally was steeplejack. He'd do his run in the morning, which is what you just said. He's up and down ladders all day, lifting, climbing, and then he's in the gym on a night, and just hard as nails, fit as hell, fit from just working physically, but then running around selling tickets, and we're both getting in at stupid o'clock. They're very different times, Russell. Boxing's a hard sport in the ring, in the gym. No matter how you've been brought up, training is hard, but certainly harder if you get all that extra additional comforts during the day to recover from it. Very, very different times.
Yeah, it is. Okie dokie then. Well, listen, thanks for coming on, Julian. Been a pleasure.
My pleasure.
Hope you well. Have a great weekend.
Certainly will do, mate. My daughter's 18 today, so celebrations tonight.
Tell her many happy returns from Big P.
I will do, Russell. So you take care and we'll speak soon.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers, buddy.
Bye. Well, that was Julian from West Yorkshire. Always get a good balanced episode when Julian's on. He speaks from the heart, speaks sensible. Unlike me, I'm a bit of a wild cannon, aren't I? That's about it, really. Big shout out to Welcome Estates and Spartan Demolition. Hope everybody's okay over at them companies. Okie dokie. Everybody have a great weekend. I will be back with a couple of videos after the Anthony Yard show to finish off the month. Okie dokie. Peace out. Oh, we've just put 10 videos on members area. Classics. We've done them this week. So hope you all enjoy them. Peace out.